A spiritual shift is happening, my friends. This is Tony. Hope you're all doing well. We're going to get into a ton of stuff. In this video, we have, of course, something happening in France. We'll get into that. We also have what's going on with Joe Rogan, something rather curious. We'll get into that as well. And actually a ton of other stuff. What's going on with Bruce Springsteen, power, outages in a number of places in America and other places around the world, including Europe. Let's just get into this. Let's start with this here. This is rather curious. McDonald's restricts dine-in to age 21. Check this out.
A Fairfax County McDonald's is restricting the age of customers who can dine inside. Good evening, I'm Scott Thuman. We first showed you this sign last night at 11 o'clock. It states, if you're over 21, you must ring a doorbell to be let in. This is at the McDonald's in Franconia near Thomas Edison.
Of course, this is in Chicago. We're talking about apparently students getting into altercations, apparently at a number of McDonald's in that area. And it covers actually more than one place. It covers this area of Fairfax, Virginia, which I was just showing you. It covers Chicago. It covers actually a number of big cities around America where they're not allowing people under the age of 21 to actually get into the restaurant unless they're accompanied by with someone that is a 21 or older. So you got that going on. You got this story here. Buy now, pay later usage for groceries nearly doubles as consumers struggle with food costs. Now, apparently, a lot of people are putting their food on the charge card, the credit card. So you got people going to fast food or supermarkets using credit. You got to be age 21 in numerous cities to even get in the restaurants now. So you got all these strange stories like this. And these are just the beginning stories. Like I said, we're going to get into a ton here. You have your thousands of rent stabilized. New York City apartments face foreclosure and tenant bloodbath. Thousands of rent stabilized apartments in New York City are under the threat of foreclosure as an increasing number of landlords stop paying their mortgages, making the coveted units even more scarce. So we're seeing now a lot of businesses are not even able to pay the rent. And this is causing them to lose their buildings in this case. And that's in New York City. You have, of course, a number of store closures happening with JCPenney's. You have Rite Aid, Joann, 440 stores. I mean, it's actually a lot more than just those three. I've seen numerous stories of them closing. And I think this is still the remnants of the last 4 years, sort of the momentum of that, while we try to turn this whole thing around, right? But what's really interesting is we got this story of French President Emmanuel Macron, where he apparently gets a little bit of it in his face from his wife. Check this out. I like how he waves afterwards. He's like waving afterwards, like, oh, hey, you guys. After his wife, of course, pushes him in the face. Now, this is not the first controversy for, Macron. I mean, you had this one not too long ago. What was this? This was earlier this month, about 2 weeks ago. Then you also had, even before that, people talking about, of course, his wife, saying certain things. I'm sure a lot of you already know what I'm referring to, saying maybe he or she, I guess we don't know, right? This is basically what a lot of people are talking about. So we're going to get into, like I said, a ton of more stuff as we get into this video. We're going to get into what's going on with the economy. We have also a number of big stories. We have some power outages. We got what happened to Bruce Springsteen. It's totally hilarious. We'll get into that. And Joe Rogan, a big story about Joe Rogan as well, coming to faith. Apparently. We'll get into that as well. First, I got to mention food supply, 25-year shelf life. Link is in the description. 3 months worth for $4.97. You're going to definitely want to get that if you have not already. Link is in the description for that. You've seen all the things happening over the last few weeks, actually few years. We just had multiple outages over in France, Germany, and other countries. Now we're starting to see it in America. I'm going to get into those stories in a little bit. It's always wise to be prepared. Also, this book here, The Lost Ways, How Your Great-Great-Grandfather Lived Without Electricity, How to Build a Cellar, Do Things Around the House Like They Did in the Good Old Days, hundreds of pages illustrated. You're going to definitely need that book. If you have not already gotten it, when the power goes out, you're not going to be able to get it. $37, get the printed version. Link is in the description. Also, go check out my website, GR Videos. Got lots of great stuff over there. Let's get back to the video. So we have here, our president warns Apple and Samsung that 25% smartphone tariffs could land in June. So our president is indeed trying to bring more jobs back to America. I think this is a good thing. We'll see how this all pans out. Personally, I think it does take a long time to turn this Titanic around. We're still going towards the iceberg. Actually, I think we already partially hit it. But the fact is, our president is upending the global economy by doing all these tariffs. And I think this is a good thing in the end. I think it's going to turn out well. We have here him taking $3 billion in frozen Harvard money grants and giving the money to trade schools instead. I think that's a good reapplication of the money. So that story just came out recently as well. You have, of course, also Walmart with layoffs. I think it's like 1,500. This is while they're also trying to raise prices at Walmart currently. And you have here Walmart, Subaru, Mattel. These are the brands raising prices due to the tariffs. And of course, there are some companies that are not raising the prices. Very interesting. You have Home Depot, for example, not raising their prices at all. Home Depot, and there's actually a few other ones, not as big, that are doing the same thing. And actually, a lot of companies haven't come out and said anything, which means I kind of feel like they're probably by default not raising prices. Home Depot doesn't plan to raise prices due to tariff, but some items may disappear. What I think this whole thing is, my friends, is I think they're actually trying to raise the prices in a lot of these stores and try to blame it on our president. I think because if you look at these stats for the tariffs, there is a 90-day pause, not a 20-day pause, 10% for the 90-day period for China. Okay. Now it's actually both directions. And if you actually look at the former numbers, they're actually slightly worse before. It was 10% generally speaking, but there were certain items that were higher than 10%. So to me, this tells me that this was just an excuse to raise prices because of inflation. This is my thoughts on it. These guys simply don't want to raise prices due to inflation. So they're literally replacing, if you replace the word tariffs with inflation, that might be a better explanation, at least in my mind, as to why they're all doing this. Because actually, in reality, they could have waited those 2 weeks, not bought anything, nothing. I mean, there was like 2 weeks of problems with buying from China. I think 2 or 3 weeks. And there's a holiday every year in China where there's 2 to 3 weeks where you can't buy anything. What does Walmart do during that time? Well, they buy beforehand, right? So they probably knew that these tariffs were coming, and they probably bought some stuff in advance and were able to weather the whole thing. So they wouldn't have to raise prices because of tariffs. I think it's a game of inflation where they want to blame something else. And Home Depot simply doesn't want to raise prices because apparently inflation is not bad enough yet. This is my thoughts on the entire thing so far. And getting over to some of these other things, apparently Elon is now saying he's resuming working 24/7 for his companies. There was an outage, I think, a couple days ago on X, and has obviously been restored at this point. But so you had that story. He's been apparently decided to, spend all of his time on his companies again and get away from the whole Doge thing. And he did what he does with his companies. Generally what he does is he sets up a system and then he lets it run on its own. So that's basically what he did with the whole Doge thing. Market meltdown and recession incoming, warns former BlackRock fund manager Edward Dowd. Now, a former BlackRock fund manager just issued a major warning on the U.S. economy in an interview on market disruptors. Edward Dowd forecasts an incoming recession, market meltdown driven in part by a housing crisis and a bursting AI bubble. Now, it's interesting that he said AI because we do have a video of some of the newest AI. Check this out. This is crazy.
Car show. Let's see some opinions.
This is AI.
Man, the acceleration is crazy.
The entire
you
thing.
Look far, step on the pedal, and you are there.
I feel safe with him in an SUV.
Does that look real?
It seems to be like the right type of car.
It looks pretty real, don't it? This is the new AI. I've seen some hilarious videos of like people, at the top being in prison. They used AI to make it, and it looks pretty real. So yeah, this is where AI is now. It's doing quite well. They've got way better at making it look realistic. And I do agree, though, that there is a recession coming. It's super obvious. We're well past due for it. But I don't think it's because of tariffs. I think the tariffs are actually a solution, as I mentioned before. Let's getting over to the thing is, though, you've seen kind of how their message is. They want you to think certain things, so they put them out, right? Then we got this story about Bruce Springsteen. We have famous musician Pete Townsend, who came from England, criticizing Bruce Springsteen. We also have this guy who also came from Britain, criticizing him as well. Check this out.
To slag off this country, to criticize America in front of booing fans from England. How disgraceful. I tell you what, why doesn't he stay in England? I'll stay here, because I've got work to do to make California truly golden again. That's why I'm running for governor, and I'm running for governor as a proud American. So I may not have been born in the USA like Bruce Springsteen, but I...
Now that was Steve Hilton, former Fox News host and commentator who's running for governor of California. But we also have Pete Townsend, who is a former British musician who also has recently criticized Bruce as well. Here's what he had to say. Rock legend Pete Townsend of The Who says Bruce Springsteen ruined everyone's night when he brought politics on the stage. He is a bit overrated to begin with. He's kind of a bloke who should just shut up and play. This is kind of the sentiment a lot of people have, sort of like what we saw with Rachel Zegler and other people also in Hollywood. We have here Adam Carolla holds nothing back on Bruce Springsteen as well. And check this out.
And Trump, who's winning this so far?
Well, here's a little experiment. Remember 20 years ago, you think about Bruce Springsteen and you think about Robert De Niro and you're like, I don't know what those guys are thinking, but they're geniuses. I never hear them do interviews. I have no idea what their intellect is, but they have to be geniuses. And then they both started sharing their opinions in like the last 20 minutes. And now we know they're buffoons and fools.
I mean, that's kind of true, man, actually. Because for a long time, I had a lot of respect for Robert De Niro. And Bruce Springsteen, I used to like him back in the old days. But then you started seeing what he really stands for. And you're just like, seriously, man? You're supposed to be about America. And you're literally the opposite of what you allegedly stand for. So you have also Kid Rock as well talking about this. Check this out.
Well, what do you think of that?
Garbage, TDS at the highest level. I mean, he's over there creating peace in the Middle East. You know, one of the places that could possibly erupt and send the world into turmoil. And he's over there getting it done. Not only, you know, getting great deals for our country, which I've told everybody. I got people at high levels working in finance.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Some of the criticism coming from these people in Hollywood, clearly they have derangement. But then we have this interesting clip from NFL quarterback Aaron Rodgers talking about Ellen, DeGeneres and her show. Notice how this building looks kind of like this building. Let me see if I can get it on the screen a little bit better. This is from Aaron Rodgers. He mentioned this. He pointed out how this looks very similar to this. And then you also got the palm trees, which you got palm trees here. Of course, it could be just a mere coincidence. This is what Joe Rogan said, but it seems a little too alike for it to be a coincidence in my mind. Also, she did leave the country. And there is something else that Joe Rogan recently started doing that's kind of interesting. Check this out. This is Wes Huff talking about it.
Joe Rogan and I have had on and off communication since then. I can tell you for a fact that he is attending a church, and that that has been a consistent thing. And so, things are happening. And
wow, man. And I showed you guys a clip recently where he was literally saying almost the opposite of what he would have said 10 years ago. He was questioning the Big Bang, saying, do we really got proof of this? But then saying that the resurrection was something far more easy to believe. So he actually has flipped on that. From what I can tell, 10 years ago, he would have said the exact opposite of that, because he was all about trusting, the science back then. We have here another interesting story. There's a man who apparently worked at Generac, who was a believer, a devout Christian, and was reportedly fired from his job when they discovered that he refused to use someone's, of course, pronouns. And so they fired him from that job. And I think that's pretty ridiculous. I mean, you should be able to choose what you want to say, even if, whether you believe it or not, what they want. I mean, even if you believe in it, you should be able to say, I don't want to say it, right? This is how I look at it.
I started at Generac as a entry-level customer support agent. Within 3 years, I had as many promotions, like one every year, to the point where within 3 years, I was actually in leadership and I had 13 people directly reporting to me. My performance reviews were glowing.
Spencer Wimmer worked at Generac for almost 5 years and earned excellent performance reviews. But when he told his supervisor that his deeply held Christian beliefs prevented him from using the preferred names.
Yeah, so I mean, he lost his job over that. Then you got this crazy story. I couldn't even believe this. Charlie Kirk has been labeled by the SPLC to be part of one of those anti, of course, GOV type of groups, and put him right on the map next to this group right here. I'm like, what? I would think that this guy, if anybody, would be the last one that would be on that list on the conservative side, because of, I mean, he's obviously very welcoming of other people. He doesn't have any sort of, from what I can tell, hate. Seems like a really nice guy overall. Don't agree with everything he believes in or says, but he's not a bad dude. And so that's just kind of bizarre, right? And at any rate, with regard to this whole thing with Springsteen cover band gets new gig after Tom's River Bar booted them out. So apparently they were booted out of a venue because of what he said in Europe. But then another, obviously on the left venue, picked up the tab apparently. This is just getting ridiculous, this world. And here you have Bruce Springsteen, what he said actually at the concert. Let's play this. All right, so what's kind of weird about that, like he had more cheering. He got some cheering on that, but he actually had probably double that on everything else he was saying before that. So, of course, a lot of people already knew where Bruce Springsteen stood on this. So anybody going to his concert probably isn't going to be a fan of our president here in America. But at any rate, we're making a game right now. I've talked about it before, Noah VR. It's also going to be called Apocryphon Genesis. We have 150 shares that have been added to this. If you want to get involved and earn some money when we release the game, take part in the profits. We have 33% of the Noah VR profits will be set aside for all the shareholders that get involved. And if you already bought one of these shares, you're actually already going to make more money because we increased the percentage. But we now have another 150 shares at 400 apiece. If you're interested, click the link in the description. You can get involved in that as well. We have also, getting on to the next story, we have here what's going on in New Orleans. This happened a day before yesterday. We're seeing a lot of stories. Actually, let me pull up this here. So we have had a lot of power outages of recent in America. And yeah, they had one in Louisiana too. So they had New Orleans. Well, I mean, that is New Orleans, duh. I don't know what I was thinking there. It was Houston. That's the one I was trying to think about. You had 100. Let me see if I can get this pulled up. So we have here New Orleans. It was 100,000 people with no power. It's now been fully restored. I think today you have here, yeah, it was 100,000 customers. Okay, so that has been restored. And then we had, of course, also, it's called a malicious act. Let's see if I can get on the screen better. Power cut in Nice in second day of outages in southern France. So this is interesting because we had outages. Okay, we've had so many different things with regards to France and Germany and all these places. What was the other one? Okay, I showed you guys this already, right? I'm assuming I showed it to you. Maybe I didn't show it to you. Let me show you that in a second here. Okay, so with regards to France, we had, what do we have? We had the phones go out, the internet go out like 4 days ago. We had a hacking in England like a little bit before that, like 10 days ago. We had the power go out in like 4 or 5 countries. I think it was 5 countries, like 3 weeks ago. And now they had another power outage. And I've been talking about how I thought this would be coming to America next. We're already starting to see some outages here as well. And there is also some other strange things I noticed also that I'm going to get into in a new video that has to do with that volcano. We got some weird predictions coming next. This summer is going to be crazy. I mean, I think we're all going through stuff. Spiritually, I've been going through something. Something's trying to stop me from doing videos, my friends. The devil don't like what we're doing here. So God is in control, though. God is protecting us. We're going to get through all of this. Kind of wondering what some of you guys think. Let me know. Well, I should show you this too. I thought I already showed it, but here you have Macron. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he showed it. Yeah, that was his wife, by the way. And then he waves. And apparently there's been stories of her doing stuff like this to him for a long time, but so it's unfortunate that that's happening. But I mean, he's been caught with a lot of other weird things. I showed you guys the other thing. Oh yeah, let me show you this. This is crazy. Check this out. Young man makes a plasma type of device. Check this out. This is crazy. Let's see if we can get on the screen. That was 10% power. Check this, 20%. He built this in his backyard. Metal. And that was 20% power. He built this with car parts and scrap metal. That's like insane. I've never seen anything like that. And of course, they're telling us that we're going to have tons of hurricane activity now. They're already predicting this. Kind of wonder what some of you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.